Listen, the proof is right there in the pudding. Some of your favorite stars have used Backstage to kickstart their career. Denzel Washington, Sandra Bullock, Chris Evans. That's Captain America. You too can be just like Captain America. All you have to do is subscribe to Backstage. You know what? You can do that right now for free. Here's what you gotta do. Go to backstage.com/subscribe and enter the code ENVELOPE at checkout for a 30-day free trial. That's 30 days of access to thousands of casting notices uploaded daily. You're just one click away from following the footsteps of some huge names that used Backstage at the start of their careers. Viola Davis, Scarlett Johansson, Al Pacino. As always, be like Al Pacino. Subscribe to Backstage today, and again, use code ENVELOPE at checkout, ENVELOPE, for free. Be like Al Pacino.
I check in on every project on kind of the quote-unquote worst day of it, whether it's freezing cold but you're in a summer dress, or you are sitting in the woods in a scary little tent by yourself with a weird heater. Like, I've done it all. And if you can still say to yourself, there's no place I would rather be, you should still be doing this.
Welcome to another new episode of In the Envelope, the Actors Podcast. I am your host, Backstage Senior Editor, Vinnie Mancuso, and joining me today is someone who has been doing this a long time, and will be doing this a long time more, the fantastic Dakota Fanning. Since she was 5 years old, Dakota has been commanding the screen, working with filmmakers like Steven Spielberg and Quentin Tarantino, across from co-stars like Denzel Washington, Tom Cruise, Michelle Pfeiffer, you name it, Dakota Fanning has worked with them, and today she remains a dynamic performer. As you'll be able to see, Netflix's Ripley, Oscar winner Steven Zaillian's take on the novel The Talented Mr. Ripley. Dakota plays Marge Sherwood alongside Andrew Scott, a recent In the Envelope guest on Andrew Scott, who is playing con man Tom Ripley. It's an incredible, wide-ranging chat, not just about the challenging dual nature of that role in particular, but the many lessons that Dakota has learned on set from her long, multi-decade career. Let's get right into it. Here is Dakota Fanning. Dakota, how's it going? How are you doing?
Great. Yeah, I'm doing good. How are you?
It's a pleasure to meet you. I appreciate you getting to this recording before I did. That's never...
I'm like chronically early, which I think is a good thing rather than the alternative.
You have a very long career, and I feel like punctuality helps.
It does.
I'm so excited to talk to you today. Literally right before this, I was just scrolling down your IMDb page, and I feel like you have one of the more unbeatable IMDb pages in terms of longevity and the types of stuff. So I'm curious, before we get to Ripley and the stuff you're doing now, how often do you have your career laid out like that for you? In a simplest, like, how often do you sort of look back on like, oh wow, look at all this, all this stuff I've done?
Well, I think because my life is sort of defined by the different chapters of my life are kind of defined by the movies that I was doing. So if I think about my 10th birthday, I remember that I was on the set of Hide and Seek with Robert De Niro. It's like I have these little like markers, and a lot of them have to do with where I was filming, or, who I was working with, or, those experiences. So I think about the work that I've done often just when I kind of think back on certain memories in my life. And then, of course, when people come up to me and talk about something that they're a fan of, a movie from a long time ago, so it does come up, and I'm so lucky that the things that I have done feel like once in a lifetime things. And so it's kind of impossible to forget.
Absolutely. I think I've seen you say that you still have like, a dress from I Am Sam and like a Coraline model, some in your house. Is that something that's fun to you, sort of like keeping those physical mementos that just sort of like, you walk into a room and you're like, all right, that part.
Oh yeah, totally. No, I have this dress that I wore in I Am Sam well, the costume designer was super brilliant. So it was a shirt, it was a baby dress, but then Lucy at my age wore it as a shirt. And so I have that framed. I have a dress from Charlotte's Web framed. I have the Creasy Bear from Man on Fire in a little glass box upstairs. So they're all kind of peppered throughout my house, these little mementos, and super important to me to hold on to that and to be able to see them and not have them in storage somewhere.
Absolutely, yeah. Oh, I understand that very well. I mean, I'm glad to hear it because, here at Backstage, we love, I can't wait to talk about Ripley and everything you're doing now, but we love to look back, at the road that got you here. And I want to go, all the way back. I believe your first professional acting thing was a Tide commercial.
Yes. Yes, it was.
That was at age 5 in 1999.
Five.
So I'm curious, this might be a bit of a reach of a question, but what do you remember from that set? I don't remember much from when I was doing it 5, but I have to imagine that there has to be something that sticks in your head.
Yeah, no, for sure. Well, it was my first time on an airplane from Georgia it was filmed in Clearwater, Florida. And it was my first time on an airplane. So that's kind of, that jumps out at me right away. There's a funny story from the Tide commercial because the director, there's a couple of funny stories. I ended up they picked me to be the girl in the commercial because my audition tape, they asked what do you want for Christmas?
Perfect.
And I was with another girl, and bless her, she wanted some sort of new Barbie that was coming out and fabulous. And it was my turn to answer, and all I wanted was mechanical pencils. And so I think that they might have chosen me because I gave a weirder, more specific answer.
More honest, yeah.
For whatever reason. And so at the shoot for the commercial, they walked up to me with a gift bag filled with mechanical pencils, probably 60 of them, and all the different leads and erasers and the whole thing. And my mind was blown. I couldn't believe it. And then the director called me on the set, called me Hero Girl. He was like, "Where's Hero Girl? Can we get Hero Girl in here? Let's get Hero Girl." And my mom and I remember we were like, "Oh, that's so cute. Hero. Oh, that's sweet." And as I started working more, I realized that Hero Girl just meant the main one,
yes.
The hero.
He was just trying to keep the set moving.
He was just trying to be specific. It wasn't not a compliment, but it wasn't specific to me.
Still nice to hear.
But it was still nice to hear. And the mechanical pencils were that was the highlight for sure.
I love that. At that point what
Sorry,
was
my dog's barking. If you hear my dog,
totally
sorry. She's uncontrollable.
We have plenty of canine guests on this show.
Okay.
It's a part of the gig. But at that point, what was the sort of pull towards that kind of stuff? Did you know when you're I want to be an actor? Or was it just an interesting thing? What did that experience sort of kick off for you?
I was so young, of course, which I think a lot of people, when they think back to how maybe they were at 5, you're how conscious was I of when I was, getting into all that stuff. And it came from, my mom was a parent that put me in sort of all different kinds of lessons, ballet, tap, gymnastics, violin, all kinds of things to sort of see what I gravitated towards and to see what I was naturally good at. And most of all, what I liked doing the most. And I was fine at all of it, better at some things than others, but I really was just trying to get through my lessons and my practices so I could go home and play with my toys and create my worlds and do my thing. And so she recognized that and thought, maybe a little summer camp play drama situation would be something I would enjoy. So I did that. It was a 2-week little camp, and you perform the play. It was The Rainbow Fish, that book.
Absolutely.
And I was the little blue fish. And that was the thing that I had enjoyed doing the most. And the person that ran the place was like, she should do some commercials or something. Like, she paid attention and enjoyed it in a different way than the other kids, you know, that were kind of just there, kind of goofing around. She was very focused and present and all that stuff. And so then that's where the sort of Tide commercial thing came in. I went to an open casting call at an agency in Atlanta, where I'm from, with the most amazing woman, Joy Purvis, who's still a dear friend of ours. And then I got these commercials, and my mom's sister lived in LA at the time. And so they were like, well, just go for pilot season. And if it doesn't work out or you don't like it, you got to see California and visit your aunt and, you know, see what happens. And my mom and I was a very emotionally mature child even before I started doing this business. And my mom was like, does that sound fun? Like, does that sound like something you want to do? And it sounded great to me. I was going to get to go to Disneyland and have my birthday with my cool aunt in LA. Like, it sounded great. And then I started getting things, you know. It was not that long after I turned 7 on the set of I Am Sam. So, and it just sort of kept happening where we would have our flight to go home, and I would get, my first TV show was ER. I remember we were supposed to leave, and then I got the job on ER. So then we had to stay and like move our flight. And so it just like kind of kept happening and happening and happening. And all of a sudden, a bunch of time had passed. And I feel like that's how it happens sometimes. Like, you're just present day to day. And then all of a sudden, I'm doing I Am Sam with Sean Penn and Michelle Pfeiffer, which is like a very different thing from, you know, being the hero girl in the Tide commercial, you know?
You're still the hero girl.
But I'll always be the hero girl in the Tide commercial, no matter what. Mechanical pencil loving, crazy 5-year-old. But, and then I think that's when it started to feel different, you know, because I did get a pilot. I did get an NBC pilot with Brian Dennehy called The Fighting Fitzgeralds. And I did the pilot and it got picked up, and then I got I Am Sam. And so there had to be a decision made whether I do I Am Sam or continue on with the pilot. And so I did I Am Sam. And that obviously took it to a bit more of a serious place. Not that even my mom and I felt that it was taken to a more serious place, but obviously when you look back, that was, you know, a little different from the little guest spots that I was doing. While those were great and fun and were also important, but doing I Am Sam was, you know, a marker moment.
Absolutely. So during all this, during all this time of you get a job, then a new job comes, then the next job comes. Where is the actual sort of, you know, craft of acting fitting in for you? Like, are you getting formal training, or is anything crystallizing for you, or is that also similarly like you're sort of just going from job to job and figuring things out?
I think I wasn't getting formal training. I do think that I was, I mean, this sounds kind of, I don't mean this to sound annoying, but, you know, I think sometimes you have, people just have a natural instinct for certain things. So I think that I did have that. And I think it was about, and it always has been about for me, even now, holding on to that kind of childlike imagination, because I really think that's what acting is at the end of the day. You know, obviously people have all different kinds of methods and different techniques and all of that stuff. But for me, the thing that's always resonated the most was to imagine how you might feel if this were happening to you, you know? And so when I did I Am Sam, that was the first time that, you know, I had to improv a lot with Sean. He was kind of never really said any of the lines in the script. So that was my first lesson in being present in that way. And, you know, knowing that just because your line is written as this, if somebody says something different where your answer in life would not be the line that was written, like to be able to go with that. So I learned that. And I think I just, I tried to hold on to that kind of imagination and childlike thing. And then I was so fortunate to be working with some of the greatest actors ever and kind of getting to watch them and learn from them, and sometimes being validated by them or whatever it was, So I just think I've always tried to not think too hard about it and to kind of keep that instinctual vibe. And that's what works for me.
Serves you well. You mentioned, the long list of collaborators and co-stars and stuff like that. Is there a piece of creative advice, anything that's stuck in your head more than, anything else? The thing you go to the most?
I mean, there are so many things. I mean, we were talking about being punctual, and that is something that I've always had. I think my mom just naturally, 10 minutes early is on time. But people have told me to hold on to that and that it's meaningful, to be respectful of people's time. I'm such an admirer of Jodie Foster, and she wrote me a letter once that was really meaningful to me. I've never shared what she said, but I have it written down in my phone, what she wrote me in the letter. And it's something that I go back to all the time when I feel down or lost about something. I go back to that, and that really meant a lot to me. And I think also I've really just, because so much of my childhood is intertwined with this industry and with filming and working and all of that stuff, I was very blessed to have people surrounding me. My agent for until I was 18, Cindy Osbrink, the focus on me as a person and making sure that I was still having fun and still enjoying it, and that I had time to also be a kid. And that was always a big focus for the people surrounding me. And I'm very grateful for that as a 30-year-old person now looking back. But yeah.
I love that. I am always curious, because as you can imagine, we talk to a lot of actors who have a lot of different ways to answer the question of, how do you act? It's a very general question. And what do you do? And I'm always curious when I talk to, actors like you, it sounds more instinctual and, it's based on improv. Do you have anything concrete, when you get a role, a new character that you have to create that brings you to that place of freedom? And is there anything you do to then get to a place where you don't have to do anything to it?
Yeah, to not have to do anything.
Yeah.
I don't know.
We get that answer a lot too. That's one of the most common answers we get.
Sometimes I'm like, should I be doing more? I don't know. I'm not sure. But then I'm like, no, I can't change it now. It's just now I'm afraid to do anything different. But I think a lot of it is imagination based. And then I think a lot of it has to do with the particular environment and the director and the tone of that set and the other actors that you're working with. I feel that I'm able to, I'm not really this way. I'm kind of I like things a certain way and I'm a very particular person, but then at the same time, I also feel like on a set, I'm able to, God, I don't know how to describe it, but I'm sort of able to go with the flow based on the energies around me. Do you know what I mean? I can tell what, you're like working with Quentin Tarantino. I don't bring my phone on set usually, but your phone's completely not allowed. So nobody's on their phone. So it's that brings a different energy. So you're present in a different way. Certain directors have certain things that they like or don't like or whatever. So I feel that I'm able to kind of go with the flow a little bit, but I don't know. I know what you're asking and I don't know. I don't know. I feel scared to change it. And I also sometimes feel scared to define it because then it feels like I have to do something every time. I think by not kind of being able to define it and not being able to put my finger on it, it gives me a freedom to do whatever I want.
Yeah, you'd be surprised that it's just a very common answer we get where if you look too hard at it, might go
away or something. Yeah,
let's just keep doing what we're doing because it is very clearly working. You mentioned the different ways that directors like to work on set, and you've worked with a wide range of directors. Is there anything that they're all different, they all have their process? Is there anything that the directors you've worked with that you've most enjoyed collaborating with have in common? Is there anything that as an actor you most like your sort of director collaborators to do in helping you do your job?
I think that the best experiences with directors I have had have all had in common that they are focused on the story first and the characters first, no matter how fantastical or big the surrounding things are. You know, I think working with Steven Spielberg, and obviously you're working with a ton of special effects and a ton of blue screen and green screen and, you know, all of that stuff. But he is about the emotion first, you know, and about what the characters are experiencing. And it's not like the actors aren't there to service the special effects. Rather, the special effects are there to heighten the story and the people. So I feel like I always get I get nervous when I feel like I'm having to do something to service something else that's technical. I mean, obviously being an actor is a lot about being able to blend the technical with the emotional and the characters and the story. And that's a big part of it. And I also love being a part of that, you know, like how you can make something technical look natural, you know? But I think the best directors are about like the emotional life of the characters and what's best for the story. Cause I think ultimately that's what people connect to when they watch it.
I did want to mention that, you know, I hate to date myself on this podcast, but War of the Worlds was very influential for me. That was it's a very core memory when I think of like going to a movie and being like, whoa, this is more than just more than just moving images. So it's lovely to hear that, because it's I think that's the power of that movie. It's this huge spectacle.
It's about, you know, a family at the end, at the heart. Yeah, totally. It was a milestone moment for me too.
Absolutely. Just to sort of jump ahead a bit, you know, this at Backstage where we love talking about people's, not just their formal training, but any education they got. And I know that you attended NYU not for acting. You attended for women's studies, and it was particularly about, you know, women in film and culture. I'm curious, you know, at that point in your career, you know, what was the draw to school, and what did that time period sort of, you know, do for your acting, even if it wasn't directly related to acting?
Yeah, I think, so I was homeschooled until 9th grade, and then 9th through 12th grade, I went to private school in LA, and I was gone sometimes. You know, the school was very flexible and let me take my schoolwork with me and whatever, but I was there a lot. And then moving to New York and attending NYU for the time that I did, I just felt like I didn't want those years of my life to be devoid of those normal experiences that everyone else has. You know, I wanted to know, like when I started 9th grade, my mom taught me how to open a locker, you know, like got me a lock and like taught me how to do it. And, you know, the whole thing, which I had never had one before, but I was like, I got it. I need to know what having a locker is like and how to open a locker. You know what I mean? Like, it was little things like that, you know, and people in life are constantly talking about, you know, oh, when I moved here for college, or my prom, or this party. And I didn't feel like just because I had found a career at an early age, I didn't feel like I should not have those memories, you know? So those were important. So that was why I wanted to do that. And I wanted to live in New York. I'd always dreamed of living in New York. And I do think it's true. I think if you can live in New York, you can live anywhere. And so I was very excited to have that experience. And those were some of the best years of my life. And then like in high school, maybe even more so, because it's where I met almost every single friend that I still have to this day. And I can't imagine my life without that. And also, I think it just makes you a more well-rounded, fuller person. And I think that can only help your work, you know? It's like, there are some experiences that I don't get to have, you know, like I don't have a summer job, you know, like there are some things that I just don't I don't have for whatever reason. So all the other kind of quote unquote normal, average, whatever you want, all the experiences that I could have, I wanted them all, you know? And I was really lucky to get to feel very fulfilled with all that.
In the sort of years since, you mentioned that when you first started acting, it was a lot of you're going from job to job because the jobs they just keep coming. When you sort of have a bit more of an idea that this is your career and this is who you are, how is what you gravitate towards change? As we head towards what you're doing now and Ripley and that kind of stuff, what has changed about what you're looking to do? Because you've been doing it since you're a kid. Are the challenges different? Are the wants different? The needs different? How has that changed? The sort of the roadmap, the North Star, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, again, I sometimes don't know because I feel like if you kind of make some strategy about it, then it sort of you can lose sight of what's important, and I never want to say, oh, I should do this, I should do this movie because, whatever. I don't like that feeling of like, oh, I probably should, It's like, it should really always be, I want to, because I want to. And I'm a big director person, I love that relationship, and there's nothing better than, talking to a director and just really connecting with them and getting that experience of that bond. So that's always something that I focus on. I think, with something like a Ripley, for example, just because that's about to happen, like Steve's Alien, I really didn't need to hear anything more, it was, and then of course, like the other actors that you're going to get to work with. I'm always really excited by who those people are and who, you'll hopefully become friends with at the end, and then there are things where, like after I had done The Alienist twice, I was like, might need a minute from the corset vibe, like there are certain things where you're just like, ooh, I need a break from that. And then as I get older, traveling is still fun, but I do have like a life, and like leaving my life, I think for anybody as you get older kind of can become less and less enticing.
Yes, absolutely.
So it's that, it's like, oh, I was gone a lot last year, so maybe I'd like to not be so far from home. I mean, there are sometimes, something as simple as that, but usually there's some sort of feeling that you want to be a part of something, or know that you could bring something to it, or at least hope that you can, or even just selfishly want the experience and just want to be the person in that role, or, in that film or that series. It's sometimes very selfish.
I mean, it makes a lot of sense. And I'm curious, similar to that, because you've done so much, has your relationship changed at all to the stuff that you don't do? The stuff where you sort of, you pass it up because you have that feeling of, I should do this, but you don't, or, the stuff that comes your way, but the timing isn't right. Do you feel differently about that now as you did, or is that something that's an ongoing process still?
I think it's an ongoing process. I mean, I don't like to say that I wouldn't do something, because I think you never know. I like to always have all my options open and be free to change my mind and whatever. So I never really say never to anything, but I think it's just a feeling. It's just a feeling thing. Sometimes I'll read something and it's not that it's not good, or it's not that it won't be great with somebody else, but maybe I said this the other day. I said, I just don't know what this is trying to say. You know what I mean? Like, and not that everything has to have a message. I don't mean in some sort of moral or ethical way, but I just wasn't sure what this particular thing was saying, and like what the point was. Like, I couldn't figure that out, so that I'm not the right person to be in it. You know what I'm saying? Like, because I just didn't know, and I didn't feel like I was ever going to know. And then when you don't know what you're saying, then you kind of just can feel like a clown in a costume doing a really weird job when you don't have anything to like hold on to. That's the only way I know how to describe it, when you don't, because being an actor, sometimes you are a clown in a weird costume doing weird stuff, and that's part of it. But if you can hold on to why you're doing it, then it doesn't feel weird and goofy and, embarrassing. But if you can't, then it can feel really embarrassing.
Yeah, you become very aware of
you become very aware
you.
of some of the ridiculous aspects of what you're doing. And so I think I'm usually just trying to be not aware of the ridiculous aspects of what I'm doing. And that usually comes from, knowing that kind of deep knowing of why you're doing it.
Absolutely. That's a very, very fair goal. That makes a lot of sense. So I'm curious, to sort of put some specifics to everything we've been discussing with Ripley. How did you come to this, and what was the, besides working with Stephen, which is a very, a very big job, but when you see this character, what is your sort of day one reaction? What is the pull? What is the sort of like, oh, I think I could do this. I think I could do this.
Yeah. I knew about the project, and when it came to me and Steve wanted to talk to me and send me the scripts, I told everyone in my life, I'll do anything. I wanted to be in this so bad. I love the story. I love Andrew Scott. I had met him once at a random party, but I just immediately loved him. And I just wanted to be a part of this. I had this sort of cosmic feeling that it was going to be a life-changing experience, and it really was. And I read the scripts, and I spoke to Steve first, and then he sent me the scripts, and I read them. I mean, I almost felt like he might not have believed that I had read them all, because I emailed him back so quickly. But I just, the second I got them, I just sat on my couch and I just read them on my phone, like just one after the other, after the other, after the other. And they were just some of the best, if not the best scripts I've ever read. His writing is just so visceral and specific and funny and dark and all of the things. And it felt crazy that I was going to get to be in it, but I was, and it wasn't not long after I was in Italy, and it was the most unique experience of my life, and it was challenging, and it was wonderful, and it was hard, and it was just and it was great. It was everything. It was just everything. We went through a whole gamut of emotions on this, and I just it's something I will just never forget. And I've now seen the whole thing in December. Steve showed me, and I watched it all in one go. We all did, and I just am so excited for people to see it, because I just love it so much. But I didn't know exactly at the time what I would bring to Marge, but I knew that I wanted it to be me.
I'll figure it out on the day.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
I'll figure it out on the day.
What were some of the more unique challenges of this? Because this is it's a role that requires a lot of you're acting across from people who are hiding a lot from each other. It's a lot of that sort of double. What you're saying is not what you're saying. It's a lot of that. So what was some of the more unique challenges of specifically playing that double speak of a role like this?
Yeah. Well, I think this is a lot about what's not said, and and the sort of double speak. You're saying one thing, but the way that you're saying it is has a completely opposite meaning. Also, the scripts are written from Tom's point of view, kind of, and he's this unreliable narrator, and it's what makes them so incredible. But then, as the people playing the other characters, there's a lot of blanks that you are filling in, and so the line could, and this is also, it's not a super word heavy piece, and it's about the silences and about what's not being said, and it's about the emotions underneath and all of that stuff, which is what I actually love doing as an actor so much. So I felt like I was going to be able to bring my love of what's underneath to this story. But there was definitely, like, I would be looking at my scenes for the next day or for the week or whatever, and realizing that I had to decide how to play it, because it sometimes was from Tom's point of view. So then I'm kind of riding alongside it, Marge's timeline, And Steve and I would talk about that all the time. And sometimes I would just throw something out there and wonder if that's what he wanted, and then he would be like, I think it's good that she knows this, but not that yet, And so it was kind of about mapping the timeline for Marge. And what's also really great about Marge is that she's one of the only people that kind of goes toe to toe with Tom and doesn't really trust him from the start and can't put her finger on why, but knows that there's something off with him. And so they have a bit of a cat and mouse thing and have, really snippy scenes together, but they're only saying nice things to one another. But we are kind of, seemingly want to kill each other. And so that was really fun. That was really fun to do those scenes with Andrew and to play all of that. But yeah, it was precisely what you said. It was a lot about those kind of hidden meanings or double meanings, or, what's not being said was more the focus. And so it was also just keeping track of that. Steve wrote every episode and directed every episode. So we were able to film it like a big, long movie. And it was sort of broken up instead by the cities that we were in. And obviously Italy is another character in the series. And every place that we were filming kind of has a different tone, I think, to it, which was also fun to be a part of.
I'm always so interested when I hear actors, discuss the mapping and figure out what the character knows, when they know it, And again, this might be much too much of a big question, but where does that go for you when the director says action, when the cameras are rolling? When you figure all that out, and you do your script analysis and you're like, here's what she thinks, but here's what she's saying. It's a lot in your head. How does that then manifest when you're like, okay, but action, I am the character now? And again, if the answer is I don't know, that's totally
I know. It kind of is. The answer is kind of I don't know, but no, it's there. It's there, and I think it's just you have to trust that it's there.
Mm-hmm.
And there are certain scenes where you can think about what you're going to have for lunch, and then there are certain scenes where you can't, and I think that you know the difference in the moment. But another piece of advice that I was given in my career was if you're thinking it, then the audience will be able to feel it, or, the other actor will be able to feel it. And so I think it's about just having that timeline and that map in your mind and that you kind of dreaming on it so that it just sort of exists. Mm-hmm. That's all I know how to describe it as. It's it's weird. But then, there are times where you're thinking about, shit, I should have ordered the chicken and not the fish, there's that. There's a time and place for that too, I try not to take myself too seriously also with all this stuff, you do want to take it seriously, of course, and you want to be respectful and you want to do the best that you can and make sure that you're focused and all of that. But I also, making something and the experience of making it is time in my life that I can't get back. So I also want to make sure that I am enjoying my life. And it's not all, every day isn't just this very serious, heavy experience. I can't do that, I have to be able to make jokes.
It's so interesting you say that, because we had Andrew on this show not that long ago, and he said something almost word for word the same.
Yeah, we are very similar.
He said that there always has to be some kind of play in what he's doing, even when he's, even when it's something like this, even if it's heavy material, there always must be some kind of play. So I'm curious, working together, and you said that there is a lot, you do have a lot of these very, snippy, tense scenes where it's really back and forth. It's sort of like a tennis match. How did the way that you two work enhance the way you worked? Was there a very big gel point there of there must be play, there must be?
I think that Andrew and I are similar in our way of thinking, and there was a lot of laughter as well. And in some of those scenes where Marge and Ripley are kind of going at it in their way, Steve would call cut, and Andrew and I would just look at each other like, like just like enjoying the bitchiness of our characters. And but we had our inside jokes and our things and all of that. And I can't exist on a set without that, I just can't. And I don't think Andrew can either. So we were able to cut the tension and cut some of the more challenging days with a lot of laughter and, venting and all that. So, we really had to lean into that because this is a darker situation. But by the way, they're also really funny. I mean, Tom Ripley is a really funny character also in his own unique way. But yeah, no, we totally leaned into that play and also keeping it fun for sure.
So as we sort of, come to the end of our time here and wrap things up, we try and sort of wrap it up with some kind of bow because we looked all the way back and this long, fruitful career you've had. I'm curious, when you look back to the very beginnings, in what way is acting as a job, acting as an art form, is it the same for you as it was, back as Hero Girl, back as I Am Sam? How is it the same for you these days?
I think it's the same in that I check in on every project with myself. And, I think a lot of things are, you think being an actress and being in this business is a glamorous endeavor. And there are some things that certainly are, but there's a lot that's not. And I check in on every project on kind of the quote unquote worst day of it, whether it's freezing cold, but you're in a summer dress, or, you are sitting in the woods in a scary little tent by yourself with a weird heater, like in a folding chair. Like I've done it all. And if you can still say to yourself that there's no place I would rather be, even though this technically isn't fun right this moment, I would rather be here than anywhere else. If you can still say that, I think you should still be doing this, And if you can't say that, then you need to think about why you're not saying that. What about that particular experience is making it so that you would rather be somewhere else? And so I think about that on every project. And whatever the answer is, I solve why I'm answering the way that I'm answering and try and improve on it or find more of that, and that's something that I've always done. And it's kind of kept me sane and grounded, you know what I mean? And make it, and that I have some autonomy. Do you know what I mean? Like, I don't know how else to say it, but I always do that. And way more times than not, there's still no place that I would rather be. I feel when I'm on a set and when I'm working and all of that, there's a sense of calm that comes over me because everyone that's in my life that's important to me knows where I am. I don't have to be the slave to the phone that we usually are in our days. I can leave it somewhere else. I don't have to look at it. Everyone knows where I am. Everyone knows how to get in touch with me, and I can just like fully be present and not worry about anything else. And so there's very few places I think that you can feel that way, and working and being on a set is a place that makes me feel like that. And I also think there's nothing more magical than the camaraderie of a cast and crew who get along well, and the specific energy that's shared is something that I never take for granted, and I always love. You create these crazy bonds in such a short amount of time, and you never forget them.
Amazing. Well, Dakota, again, thank you so much for being here talking to us. This was wonderful. It was a pleasure to meet you. And Ripley, soon. Can't wait for everyone to see it. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Nice to meet you.
Thanks, as always, to our brilliant producer, Jamie Muffett, and to the whole team at Backstage. Samantha Sherlock, Mark Stinson, Caitlin Watkins, and of course, Kasey Howe. Visit Backstage.com, and don't forget, you can subscribe to Backstage with code ENVELOPE at checkout for a free trial. 100% free, you simply cannot beat that. For more exclusive content, find us on Facebook and Twitter at In The Envelope, and subscribe, share, and leave a comment. Who should we interview next? Let us know. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you next time for another peek in the envelope.